Welcome to the New Commission's Artist Talk series for the new site-specific artworks, sponsored by the Houston Airport System at George Bush Intercontinental Airport and Houston Hobby Airport, on behalf of the City of Houston's Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs. Hosted by Houston Arts Alliance Director of Civic Art and Design, Grace Zuniga. Please welcome Melissa Borrell.
I'm Melissa Borrell. The title of my piece, The New Commission at the Airport, is Pentaplexity.
And this piece, it's going to be installed where at the airports?
This piece is being installed at the administrative offices at IAH.
Okay. And are you from Texas? Do you live and work in Texas?
I'm from Houston originally. I grew up in Houston and I currently live in Austin.
Can you describe your piece and can you explain to us what pentaplexity is?
Pentaplexity, yeah, from the term that refers to five. And so it's talking about five-sided shapes. So basically, pentaplexity is a suspended sculpture in the administrative building that brings together a lot of different ideas that I think reference ideas that are connected to the airport and air travel and also space travel, which the Houston Airport System is connected to space travel as well with NASA and the Space Center. Pentaplexity is a term that Sir Roger Penrose came up with to explain a concept he discovered about a method of laying down five-sided shapes in a way that the tiling pattern works and can extend into infinity in any direction, yet never repeats itself. Before his discovery, it was thought that that any pattern with a finite number of shapes would always repeat itself. So this system that he discovered, he wrote about it and titled that paper, Pentaplexity. And so that's where I took the name for the title of this piece. And I used that pattern in creating the form of the piece. So the structure from which all these colored acrylic panels are hung follows his pattern of five-sided shapes that are tiled together. And then the reference to things extending in infinity, to me, reference the sky and the galaxy and the universe that we exist in and that planes fly through. And then the arc of the piece references the takeoff and landing of an airplane in space.
Can you talk about the significance of the colors that you used with the material that make up your piece?
The colors that I use are basically based on kind of a variation of primary colors, really what is used in the printing process of cyan, magenta, and yellow. And so those three colors have the possibility of creating an infinite number of colors as they layer together. And so the way the panels are suspended in space at different angles, depending on what view you see the piece from, you'll see different colors. The material is a translucent material. So the way the panels are suspended with these different angles allows for infinite numbers of colors to be seen, depending on what angle you see the piece, how many panels are layered together. They add together and create other colors on the spectrum. I also mentioned in my narrative of the piece about how it's related to also the idea of rainbows and the refraction of light through through water in a rainbow.
Have you worked with plexiglass like this in your past works?
I've been using translucent acrylic material for a long time. I'm really attracted and mesmerized by the color mixing process. And it's a very direct process of like just layering colors on top of each other and then seeing a new color appear just feels very magical. And I'm still interested in it. I'm still playing with different ways to show other people through my work the magic of that process of mixing colors.
And have you ever worked with this material to this scale and like in the way that it's going to be installed in the building?
No, this is my largest piece to date. It's a lot of firsts for me. It's my first suspended piece, and it's definitely my largest piece. I've played with this concept of prism type shapes before, but using it in this pattern, this exact pattern, is also a new application for me as well.
So what have you learned with the new application, and what technical difficulties or challenges have you faced during this process?
The fabrication has gone fairly smoothly. The difficulty has probably been more about timing and scheduling. As like public art projects go, it's a large project, and so it's hard to predict when things are going to come together and when the different contractors that I've hired will be available and things like that. So that's really part of the process, and part of the work of a public artist is to approach those difficulties and figure out a solution. At the moment when we were supposed to install, we discovered that the original proposed material did not meet the building code. And so we had to back up, look again, and research what material would be approved for this space. And so I found a comparable material that has similar visual properties to the original proposed material, that meets the higher fire code requirements for this building.
Are you gonna like this material better, you think?
I mean, it's always interesting to see when it's installed, what the different qualities are at that scale. It has a slight texture, which is the main difference visually from the acrylic material I've worked with in the past. I usually try to predict as much as possible by making smaller scale models beforehand. And everyone on the team, I think we all felt confident the material was close enough that we didn't need to do that. So because I already had the model out of the acrylic in very similar colors, but I don't know about better. I think it's just going to be different and special. I wonder if it'll have a little bit of a more shimmering effect.
I think you bring up an interesting point, thinking about artists who put work in the public sphere. There's so much that happens on the front end of an artwork going up and being installed. And it's a really different practice than, making work to hang in a gallery or making work for a show. There are so many variables that you have to be flexible for, and there's so many people that have to be coordinated and organized, and there is a flexibility in a construction project versus an art project, and when those things can magically align so that installation can happen. And so I think it's an interesting point that you bring up. So what other public art installations have you worked on? And how has this process been different from your previous experiences?
The other main public art piece I've made was a fused glass piece for a window at Texas Tech University. And similarly for that project, I worked with other fabricators to create the piece after I made the original artwork and a model. Well, the difference with this piece, I feel like, is that I won't see the full piece until it's in the space and all the panels are being attached. Whereas this glass piece, I worked with a glass artist who made the panels. So I couldn't see them. I guess similarly, I couldn't see them all together until we were in the space because there was no, I just didn't have that opportunity. We didn't have a space to lay them out. But they were a little bit more finished. Like you could see a panel and see the different colors within the panel that were fused together. Whereas this, it's like, it's just parts. This piece is just parts. Until it's put together, it doesn't exist, if that makes sense.
So the other question we had for you, and we've kind of touched on everything else, but how would you like the public to respond to your artwork in this setting? Like, what would you like your work to evoke out of the people who are, going to be with it every day, especially as it's in the admin building?
I mean, one of the fun aspects of this piece is that I don't even think I thought of this before. It's gonna make them take a pause from whatever they're doing and look up and see what's going on above their heads. And I think that's what people do with airplanes. They're like, oh, there's a plane. Like, where's it going? Is it landing? Is it taking off? Like, I think that's really cool. But that moment of pause and wonder and noticing the colors, and there's also the possible like reflection or refraction of the colors into the space. So I think that's one of the core goals of my work in general, is to ask people to take a moment to look at this other thing, and hopefully expand their mind in a new way.
Yeah.
But if nothing else, to just give a moment of beauty and color in their day.
I'm excited. I hadn't really thought about like how light's going to play in, how the two colors interacting and the transparency is going to create like a visual kaleidoscope in a way of color above you. Like I hadn't really thought about that in the piece, because I've only seen it in like drawings or in like very small scale. And so to think about it in this like grander space, and there's like a spontaneity that lives in it, it's really exciting for me, and I'm excited to see that come to fruition. So
the culmination of installing it and seeing it come to fruition is super exciting, but there's also this magical moment that happens when I'm coming up with the proposal and I feel like, oh, that's it, I've got it. Because I probably went down a few different pathways before I figured out this one. And when I hit it, I've been interested in mathematical patterns and ideas for my whole life. I researched and found this pattern, and then thinking about all these ideas of infinity and space and space travel and Houston specifically, it all came together. And that was really a magical moment for me in the creative process. I think public art, like that beginning part of finding the idea, is really the most creative part. A lot of the other part of the process is really technical and a lot more like engineering or architecture, like researching the material, planning, making the technical drawings and all of that. For me, it's a pivotal moment for me in my career, this project, to be moving into making larger scale work. I don't know what the word is. It's going to mean a lot to me for the rest of my life.
yeah, it's like it's a catalyst for you. Like you've learned a lot. You've gotten maybe the like knowledge base and confidence to apply to more larger public art opportunities. And so it's provided you that like foundation of the skill set that I think you can only get as you move through this process.
Yeah, I feel like I've grown a lot as an artist, and I've gotten to this point where I'm ready for this, and it was a new experience as well.
Well, that's great. I'm glad that this opportunity and experience has lended that to you, so that you can take that and continue on with your career.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see it all come together.